Hello and welcome to the Gnomecast. My name's Tarmack, and what you see in front of you is the Mists of Pandaria beta. Now, it's not obvious because, well, it looks just like regular WoW. And that's because I'm out in the Eastern Plaguelands looking for some pet battle pets. Out in the world, you've got these wild pets that are just wandering around. Basically, pretty much any of the critters that you used to see, whether it was rabbits or grubs or any of those sorts of things, are now tameable. At least that's the idea. The actual pet battle system itself isn't implemented in the beta as yet, but I wanted to go around and show a little bit of how some of this stuff is going to impact your gameplay. Up in your tracking, we've got Wild Battle Pet as an option that can be selected now. So when you fly around, you've got the different little critters that you can see. We've got a bat there, festering maggot, some more bats over here. And when you decide you want to try and deal with one of those, once you get down on the ground, see there, we've got ourselves a bat. You've got a little targeting reticle that shows up. Nothing happens as yet when you're clicking on it. But the idea here is that you're able to battle these with your own non-combat pets, and you're able to take them into your inventory of pets to use. Now, when you take a pet like this, supposedly you're going to get some randomized stats. So this is where it's going to increase the longevity of things a little bit, because you're going to maybe want a bat that tanks, for example, rather than a DPS one. Not really sure how all of that's going to play out, but the idea is that you'll be doing multiple battles, in some cases against different animals like this, to get the right one that you're looking for. Now, supposedly as well, they're going to change some things here where we've got different types of critters showing up at different times. Some critters are only available at night, for example, or maybe when it's raining, or any other number of things. I'm sure the holiday season are going to have a lot of different variation in those animals that you're going to see out there. Now, the other thing that is implemented so far that you can see is the UI for the pet battle system. So here we've got all the different critters that exist in the game. You can filter out by which ones you have, which ones you don't, and which ones are your favorites. Now this part, there isn't any sort of linkage to this one that I can see just yet as far as how do you mark your favorites, and I'm not really sure how that's going to play out. And then as well, you can go by what type of classification you want, and each one has its own little group here. So you've got the different icons that go along with which class it is. Then on the right side, you've got the actual panel that goes along with whatever critter, and you're able to select 3 at any one time. So these 3 critters, and this goes back to the Pokemon side of things, and Pet Battles really is a boring name for it. I much prefer the Pandokemon that Scott Johnson and Terpster over at the Instance use. So you've got these 3, you would enter the battle with these 3 critters, and that's how you're going to be fighting against the other people. I'm not sure whether maybe you get these 3 critters against these ones out in the wild, or maybe it's just a one-on-one and that's it, that's all. But it should be a cycling spawn-in, much like the Pokemon side of things, where you can only have one out at a time. But if that one goes down, or if you decide you want to swap out to something that has a different ability, you can swap out probably mid-battle, I would suspect. Now each creature also has some abilities that go along with them. Most of these aren't implemented in any sort of exceptional fashion right now. Most of them are actually blank, but you will start to see that there's some really slick design to it. Here's the Onyxian Whelpling rather, and we've got different abilities that are much more specific to the type of critter that it is, as well as a little bit of a nod to the monster that it came from. So having the deep breath as an example, and tail sweep. There is an info button here, but it's not currently active, and I suspect that's probably going to be, I mean, obviously you're going to get some stats from it, but I think there also should be putting in locations and details on how you would acquire such a pet, because it's much better to do it in-game, honestly. It's the same reason that they did the Dungeon Journal. It makes a lot more sense to give you the strategies in-game rather than have you go to some website somewhere else that isn't the game. So hopefully they're going to do that. At least that's what I'd like to see. Then as well, you can summon your pet from here, so you can see it in the real world if you really feel like it. Summon a random pet, another couple of buttons. And when you're going into the battles, you're going to be able to pick from 3 different abilities. And each time you go to pick from one of those abilities, you're going to get different options from each of these. There's sort of 3 tiers was a good way of thinking about it. So here we've got either breath or deep breath. Don't really know what the differences are. It's a little early yet to say. Tail sweep or burnt earth. And then healing flame or lift off. There is some achievements that are going to be going in here, an achievement counter at the top. Now, it is currently the icon specifically for achievements, so I can only assume that this is what that counter is for. It is entirely possible that maybe that's your wins counter or something like that. To be honest, right now we don't really know. The only things that I've run into is a little bit of a bother about it, and obviously it's a beta test, so there's really only so much complaining that you can do because it's not done yet. But you got this little icon here that you click on to give your summary panel, but if you click on just the thing itself, it picks it up so you can put it in your panel here. It would make a lot more sense if it was a point, click, and drag that did that, and just clicking on the whole thing just made it pop up on the side instead of this little button. Just a little detail. And that is the basis of what we know in-game right now in the Mists of Pandaria beta about the pet battle system. It's looking like they're going all the way with this. If they're doing 6 abilities per critter, obviously some of them are going to be shared, but there's a lot of unique sort of stuff that's going to be going into this. There aren't any descriptors here yet. I know that MMO Champion has done a lot of data mining, so they found a lot more detail about the specifics, but as yet nothing is in the game. This has been Tarmack with the Gnomecast. Cheers.